Okay, hello everybody. It's nice to see you. We welcome a legendary marathon runner. Her name is Uta Pippig. Most of you will know her. She won Berlin several times and other marathons. I think she's still today the only German who won New York City. We also welcome Mark Milde, who is the race director of the Berlin Marathon. We welcome Cornelius Nohl, director of Children for a Better World, who is supporting this year's event. And me, myself, and I, Florian Weiß, a TV host and marathon and triathlete. The first question is a question to all of you. Marathon running became super popular during the last years. There is no end. That's what I see. Why is that so, Uta and Mark? First of all,
ladies first, obviously.
A gentleman.
Marathon is just something so imaginable. It's a fest. It's a completely joyful experience, and fitness. Marathon is connected with fitness, and fitness is just what everyone wants to do in those days. What do you think, Mark?
Yes, I think you're completely right. I mean, it's like a peaceful come together of a running community that brings joy to the city and to the runners themselves. And everyone has like a common goal, a common spirit, and people are being connected through social media. They see the progress of others via various apps, and just in a little bit not easy to explain, but it's there, and we love it, and we see that there's a lot of progress being made also on women's running and younger people taking up the marathon. So it's a good time to be a marathon organizer.
What makes the Berlin Marathon so special? What would you say, Mark? You do this for many years now, and your father did it before.
Yes. Well, I mean, we are situated in a great city. All right, the city gives us the background. It provides the atmosphere, the setting. It is a city with a lot of history, and we are trying to find the fastest way from the start to the finish line and showcasing this whole beautiful city. And we've been doing it now for 52 years, and we've gained a lot of experience, and I think we're doing a solid job. And that's why people love to come to us and celebrate together with the Berliners and the spectators this huge marathon fest.
And also, it's probably the fastest track in the world, right?
That's what we hope. There's been a lot of competition recently. A lot of marathons claim that they are the fastest. At the moment, the records do not sit here in Berlin. We rented them out to our colleagues of the World Marathon Majors. But we think that we want to take them back. And if we count the numbers of world records that have been achieved on this course, Berlin is by far the race with the most records, and thus we could claim it's probably the fastest in the world.
It's funny because Sebastian Savet, who also starts in Berlin this year, right, Mark?
Yes.
Immediately after he broke the 2 hours barrier in an official race in London, he said maybe he can do it even faster in Berlin in the same year.
Yes.
It's a young guy. Pressure is on now.
Of course, yes. Yeah. No, I think that's in the nature of the sport of track and field and running, that you're always looking for something to optimize, where you think you can do better. After Berlin, he came back from an injury, so his build up towards London was not perfect. My information is that he has been training since London, took 2-3 weeks off and is back in training. And so he's building up from the base where he has been and to the next one. And yeah, he's still at an age, and I think it will be his 5th or 6th marathon. So I think this is, I mean, Uta can say maybe a little bit about this, a good age and also race experience that kicks in and leaves us, if the weather cooperates, with a good chance of breaking this epic record.
It should not be too warm. We had this also in the last years on some September days. Cornelius, why do people choose to run these 42 kilometers or 26 miles? And why, and this brings you into this talk, why do some runners end up changing far more than their own lives? Because they run for children. What experience did you make in the last years with people who go for a Run for Children ticket?
Yeah, that's a very good question, because what we experience is that if people do not only run for themselves, but also for the greater good, it gives a completely different direction of the race. And we are very, very happy and grateful that the organizers of the BMW Berlin Marathon, STC event, and thank you for that, Mark, they are providing us with 100 entries to the race, and all of the donations go directly to 5 of our institutions, partner institutions in Berlin. These are daycare centers in very deprived areas, in which the children come in the afternoon after school. They at first get a meal, which is in many cases the first meal of the day for those young people.
That's crazy.
It's like an afternoon care. They're doing their homework there, which is very important, because many children don't have a space at home where they can do in concentration their homework. And for them, it's a second home. So these institutions accompany the young people for years, and we strengthen competencies on a daily life basis, but also social competencies. And that's a very, very important work that is the pedagogues are doing there. And I think it's a great pleasure for everyone who joins, that on the one hand, they can race for themselves, but they feel that it's part of a bigger story, and also connected, of course, to the history of that amazing city, of the history of that amazing marathon. And we are so happy and proud that we are part of that. And throughout Germany, we support everywhere kids, more than 5,000 for the last 30 years. And especially in Berlin, child poverty is a big issue. And so it's very, very important to be there. And we are happy that we have such great partners. And of course, thank you, Uta, for your initiative. You are the ambassador of that marathon. It was your idea. You brought all the pieces together. And Florian, you support us now for the last 2 years. So it's fantastic to have such a great team, such great people also in the running teams. And we are proud and happy.
We come back to the stories behind the statistics, because I also met these children, and it's amazing what you outside there who claim for a Run for Children ticket to the Berlin Marathon change. But we have another 6 minutes left with Mark, because this guy has a lot to do in these days before the yearly marathon spectacle. So I have a few questions to you, Mark. Which moments still gives you goosebumps every single year? You do this job for a quite long time, and you grew up with it because your father did it before. You already mentioned that. So, but what still gives you goosebumps on the race day?
Well, I mean, there are quite a few things. I mean, obviously, I am very passionate about running and organizing and putting up races. And although you could think I've been doing it now for almost 50 years in some capacity, obviously not always in the position where I am right now, it still is then only once a year, and therefore it still ignites me. It starts like, when I come to the start area, usually the sun is coming up, it's a clear day, and the anticipation is there, and everyone is happy and ready to go. And I'm not talking only about the elite athletes where I have some sort of a special connection, because I really enjoy and try to make them perform to their best. So there is this element with it, but then also being out on the course and seeing all these people coming out to support their loved ones, or just strangers, and putting up music along the route to cheer on the runners. There are just so many small facets which make this whole marathon the big thing that it really is in the end. So this puzzle with 5,000, 6,000 volunteers, everyone has to play their own thing, and that makes the Gesamtkunstwerk, as you say it in German, which might be the the total Gesamtkunstwerk.
Gesamtkunstwerk, I don't know.
Maybe
What is a
the
Gesamtkunstwerk in
the
American?
all-around art day of the marathon, the
Yeah.
entire. I mean, I agree. Just quickly, I agree so much. You come there to the starting line. It's like a picture. It's so beautiful in the morning. The sun comes up. It glitters through the trees of the Tiergarten. Everyone gets ready. Everyone is excited. There is a smell, of the atmosphere almost. And I get goosebumps because it's like, it's never changing. It's always the same. Everyone wants to be there. Everyone wants to have fun. And then there are those tactics. The athletes, they check their numbers and their times and they warm up and they discuss last minute. And then they call maybe some friends where they stand on the course, along the course, because it's a whole fest. There are millions in town just for this marathon. It's just fantastic. For me, when I see Mark is sometimes concentrated, but on the starting line, he's so cool. You feel like he orchestrates everything. And I have to say also, Mark, to you have a heart of gold for the charity, for us, and the team with Christian, Joost, and Jürgen Look, and the entire team. You are standing so much behind our cause, and it's so special. So I can't thank you enough as well.
Yeah, sure.
Mark.
You're very welcome. It's for us as well, knowing that we do quite a bit of good with doing something that we love is just a tremendous situation to be in.
One last question to you, Mark, before you have to leave. What has been the greatest challenge in this event's history? Probably COVID, but I'm not sure. Maybe you have another story for us.
Well, I mean, there's always something coming up, giving us some sort of headaches and last-minute adjustments, so that we have to sometimes improvise because you can't have a ready solution for everything. But you're right, COVID was a really, really big problem for us to adjust everyone and to keep everyone motivated and to not lose the hope that there are better times ahead. But then, 1 year the Pope is in town, and then he has to do some things in the area where we have our start and finish area. So we have to cope with that. 1 year there were demonstrators who wanted to kind of stop our race while it just started, and we had to react swiftly with the police. We luckily had never a really, really serious event during the race that we have a fire or something, but there are things that also sometimes on the background are happening where you don't really know. I mean, others what has been happening there to prevent it. So constructions in the city is always a topic which could come up until the last day. So it is not a boring job to be the race director of a big marathon race.
I'm sure about that. Mark, thank you so much for having us. It's time for you to leave
welcome.
because you have so much work to do. Danke dir
Gut.
sehr, Mark.
Danke dir auch.
Marc,
Ja,
Mark,
Tschüss,
goodbye.
bye.
Have a
Mark.
safe day.
Dankeschön.
Alles
Ciao.
Gute. Ciao, ciao.
Tschüss,
Ciao.
tschüss.
Bye. Okay, now it's up to you and me, Cornelius and Uta. Before we come back to Run for Children, Children for a Better World, let's talk about training and nutrition. Because a lot of people watch this little video because they are in training for their next marathon, and we have a legend here, Uta. What really happens in your mind between these struggling kilometers, 30 to 35?
You don't want to know. You don't want to know.
Dark places, right?
There is so much convincing. There is so much. I have light thoughts. It's all good. Just focus. No, but it's endless. It is this very scenario depending. And you ran Berlin too. I mean, you ran fast there, and 3 hours, just some minutes plus some minutes. That's fast. So you know also what I'm talking about now, and so many out there.
Absolutely.
You guys know too. So it depends. Can you tell you maybe one scenario which was for me a fantastic marathon? It was the Berlin Marathon 1990, the reunification marathon.
The first marathon with East and West Berlin.
Yeah, it ran
Ran
through the
together,
first
right?
time through both parts of the city. And I was an East German girl and came to the West. I lived already in the West in the first year. And it was like in me was the whole city. Like I felt that I could represent many people there, and all the joy and all the enthusiasm for the day, or this we feeling coming together. But for me, happened there in between 35, let's say around 35 was, back then the course was different. So the Wilder Eber, which is now roughly, I think the 28K mark, was back then the 35K mark.
Mhm.
And so for me, it was like, hang on, you can win this thing, because I was leading already.
Mhm.
Just calm down and just don't feel the pain. Just focus on something else.
Does
So
this
what you do
work?
is you talk to yourself a lot.
Okay.
That's the main thing. When we always say there's the man with the hammer coming. In this race, luckily, he never came, because I had a fantastic race. But still, I had to focus, and I had to focus away from the pain, because quite frankly, at 35, it's all painful, depending on
Absolutely.
how your speed is. If you go full out, you have so much pain during this, except you really, train so well that you can handle the speed and you had a good tactic and so. But very often there are little things, how you did your nutrition in the morning, or how you started a race, or how the conditions are when it's very warm. Back then it was a drizzling rain. It was cool. So, and I remember that some people said, there's someone behind you. And I remember that much of the race, by the way, before I didn't remember, because I was so in tune. I was so happy that this race was for the first time in both parts of the city. But later on, when it got really difficult, I would talk to myself, and I would basically meditate away from the pain. So when I had some pain in the shoulders, I said, okay, forget it. I'm focused on my knee. Until I had the pain in my knee, then I said, forget it. I focused on my feet. So I would later in other marathons also, not just in Berlin, especially in marathons which were very hilly and where I was not so fit anymore at the end, because I gave everything, I would focus away from the pain.
And this really works? You still feel it, but you don't think about it anymore? Or?
Yes, you train that. It's actually a method of diverting your attention. You meditate on it. You work on it with it for many, many years. I refined it over the years. Now I'm actually even more refining it now for my normal daily life, because I became a meditation teacher, and I do yoga and Ayurveda, and I work also with clients, and I have a good feedback how to apply it. And what you do literally is you lay down or you sit before the race and before your intense training sessions, and you bring the entire outside, you leave the entire outside your body, and you bring all the attention inside into your body, and you try to calm down all the areas in your body which have anything to say, and you communicate as long as possible to calm the areas down, and to bring your attention away from the nagging and you completely try to ignore it and breathe into an area which is not painful. It's beautiful, and it works over the years. It worked, and it's a meditative state, and it's
It
fun
also
to
works
do.
during a race? It can work during a race?
It works during the race, because even during the race, it's even almost easier, because you are under pressure, because you have no other choice than to meditate away. Otherwise, you feel it the whole time. So you do certain breathing techniques deeper. You have to breathe a lot. I mean, obviously, you have a very high pulse, high activity, but you breathe slowly, from time to time a little deeper, and you set your focus on the area which is solely not hurting.
Uta, can you remember your average pulse in one of the marathon majors you won, like Berlin, Boston, New York?
It's interesting. I never had a pulse meter. By doing those back then, it was the 90s, beginning of the 90s.
Today, everybody has it, but
how today but I would assume under today's standard that it was maybe 180, 185.
Crazy. Okay, that's crazy.
you know?
Cornelius
So,
also laughing.
but I assume it could also be maybe 175, but in the beginning, for sure, 160, 165, because we measured sometimes now when I train, and or when I train hard. Well, as
You
hard as
still
I can
train
still
hard?
train,
Yeah,
right?
but you still train hard.
Yeah,
Not
I can
for
train still kind of like not as much. The other day, I got a question during speech, and we talked, and there were some people. So, Uda, how much do you run? And this and that. I said, well, I still can run 22 minutes in 5K. And I'm 61 soon. And they said, oh no, that can't be it. And I said, yeah, sure. But it's just consistency. So I don't do much, but I stay on it. Yeah, and I have fun with it. And so sometimes when we train hard, I take the pulse. I just stop, take the pulse. Oh, now I have my watch. And so.
Yeah. I just read interviews from two experts. One supported Sebastian Savé before London, and the other is the long-distance triathlon legend Jan Frodeno. They both said that nothing changed the world of endurance sports on top level more than the nutrition during the last years. Before we talk about that, I would like to hear from Cornelius. If you had to run 42K, the fastest you can, what would you eat before the marathon and what would you eat during the marathon?
Very good question. Probably carbons, pasta before, and bananas during the race.
Mm-hmm. What does the process?
I think it's cool what Cornelius said, because that's often what bananas, it makes completely sense. Pasta, I would eat not in the morning, I would eat the night before, right? To carbo load, how we say, to have a lot of glycogen and, and then during the race, I would take glucose and fructose, right? In a certain relation.
2 to 1 normally, right?
Yeah.
2 parts glucose, 1 part fructose.
Yes, exactly. 2 to 1. And it's very individual how much carbohydrates you can take during the race. It's also very different in triathlon training, of course. Some people say like 100 to 110 grams carbohydrate, on a certain distance. In marathoning, it's very difficult to go this high because you run, right? On the bike, it's different than when you run. But the answer from Cornelius also shows that it's so different if you are, let's say, an elite athlete, right? Or if you are a cool, ambitious, free time runner who is, who tries to get all the information. There's so much out there. There are so different information, and good sources are not so easy sometimes to find. So it's, it's a little advantage. It's a little adventure. I'm sorry. It's a little adventure to really find the right amount, how to eat in the morning. And so for me, back then, it was easy, relatively. First of all, there was not so much out there yet. So everyone went with, let's say, porridge in the morning, or with toast and little peanut butter on it and some cheese and marmalade on top. Peanut butter, simply to have the fats.
A typical US breakfast.
Yeah, and yeah, right. So a normal breakfast. Today there are energy drinks and this and that and goose and gels and more, gels which have more water in them, who are more liquidy. So to give a guideline for today, in today's world for nutrition, maybe more, Florian, you can say, because you did. I think you did this fantastic marathon Berlin, and then I heard also you are an Ironman.
Yeah, 6 times. I did the full distance triathlon.
Crazy, cool.
Yeah, thank you.
That's amazing. I never did it. You did it 6 times. Who is the legend here?
Yeah. Well, the last one in Lanzarote, there were 1,500 people who did it. I think something around 1,200 crossed the finish line. In long distance triathlon, there are many people who don't make it till the finish line, especially in Lanzarote, where the conditions are very tough because of the altitude in the bike race course. It's something around 2,600 altitude meters. And after that, a very hot marathon with no shadow at all. But yeah, I think in triathlon, it's a bit different because you can carbo load on the bike in huge amounts. I had something around 100 to 110 grams per hour combined with glucose and fructose in the 2-to-1 mixture, combined with something around 700 or 750 milliliters of water. You need to drink water, because if you only take the gels, you have a problem. After 2 hours, you look for the next toilet and then you stay there for 15 minutes. But in marathon, even in triathlon marathon, where you don't run the triathlon marathon in such a speed, because you can't after 180K on the bike and almost 4 kilometers swimming. So I would say I run a solo marathon something around 10 to 15 minutes faster than an Ironman marathon. And in a solo marathon, if I manage to eat 2 gels, what make 80 grams per hour, it's a lot, I would say. Most of the time, I manage to eat 1.5 gels, so something around 60 grams per hour, and also drink, because if you run fast in a solo marathon, it's not that easy to. Is there a trick, Uta? Is there a trick how the pros, the elite runners, consume what they consume, that they don't have problems like, coughing and stuff?
Yeah, they are very, I think what I see, I'm still together with a number of elites. First of all, what they have is their water bottles. They have every 5K, there are bottles with a certain mixture of glucose and fructose and minerals and so on and so forth. But also what I learned is they have gels which are more hydrated, so more liquidy. So they can only take also 2 or 3 gels, not more. Depends. It's very also, you have to see, it very depends who you are. But what I understand is that they teach themselves to drink. So they breathe before, they calm down. They, when they go to the water station, they try to approach it really calm.
They
as
don't
good as
become
they
slower,
can.
right? They run the
Yeah,
same pace.
They go a little bit slower, take their time, because they need to drink at least 50 milliliter, 60, 70 milliliter, otherwise it's way too little. So, and it's not easy. So it's basically that they just calm themselves down. I don't know, maybe some super elites have like the best marathons in the world. They maybe have some other tricks or so. But what I see always that they calm down, they breathe a little deeper before, and then they just drink. And while they drink, they hold the bottle, they take a while, then they drink again, they hold the bottle, they take time, and then drink again, and then they throw the bottle away. So they take their time to drink.
Uta, one thing that I think every runner is struggling with is, the perfect structure of his or her training in the 6 to 9 months before a marathon. How would you structure a training?
Well, first of all, you have to go with your intuition and with your personal plan. Absolutely, everyone is different, right? But in general, I would say you start like 9 months, 1 year to 9 months before, until 3 months before the marathon. In those half a year, let's say, you just have a build-up phase. You become stronger in your basically in your endurance power, in your speed endurance. You do, let's say, 5 and 10Ks. When you feel after half a year, let's say 6 months before the marathon, you can run 5 and 10K in a good way. You feel good. Then you have 3 months to prepare for a half marathon. You do a little bit more distance. You maybe run with a group, because it's always nice to have once a week, maybe someone you can train with. It's more fun, it's easier. And then, and you can compare a little bit, and people can help you with your training. But then 3 months before the marathon, you run a half marathon to see that you feel good, that you have the distance, that you
For
are prepared
self-confidence
mentally
also.
because you can then know, okay, that's what I do twice. And then the last 3 months are simple to structure. You have 1 month basically the build-up period 1 with a little bit more endurance and a little bit more speed. You can also still go in the hills depending on which marathon you are. It's anyway good to have strength endurance. And then you have 2 months before, so 8 to 4 weeks before, or 8 to 3 weeks before, depends on how you feel and how you can train. You have the highest mileage period, where you try not to sacrifice too much in your speed development, but you try to build and build and build endurance to be really stable. And you do still some stabilization and core work, of course, and little apps and so on and so forth. I don't want to go in these details. And then you have roughly 3 weeks plus minus depending for tapering. And then you have 2-3 days before the marathon where you completely let go, where you carbo load a little bit, and then you race.
We all know that sports can change something far more important than a finishing time. It can change children's lives forever. That's what Children for a Better World does. And the spin-off, Run for Children, which is supported by Uta and also me for a few years now, is the baby of Cornelius Nohl, who is in charge for Children for a Better World. For all of us who never did this or never heard of it, you can buy an ordinary starting ticket for the Berlin Marathon, but you can also give a little bit more money and buy a charity ticket. And all the money that you invest goes into charity, not for Berlin Marathon. It's a gift from the Berlin Marathon team. That's what we have to say. They give the tickets to you for free, a special amount.
Correct.
So let's talk about these kids that we help buying those tickets. What is the reality, the everyday reality, Cornelius, for these vulnerable children in Berlin today? I've met a few of them, and for me, it was unbelievable how their lives changed. But you meet them before their lives change also. So take us to the streets of Berlin.
Well, in most cases, you do not see it on a first stance that these people are growing up in poverty. And because it does not only mean growing up with less money, it means growing up with a lack of opportunities. And I think that is the point in the end, that these children are growing up in a situation in which their families, for example, cannot afford the membership of a sports team. They do not have a place at home where they can do homework for themselves because the flat may have 2 rooms and there are 5 family members living in the flat. It's a situation in which many families cannot afford the birthday celebrations normal kids have. So sometimes in the institutions, they celebrate for the first time in a manner where you think, okay, that's a children's birthday party. And the problem is, on the one hand, of course, that these are unfair conditions, and that we as a wealthy society allow us that 20% of the children in that country grow up in that situation. And on the other hand, these are huge obstacles for their development because they miss what it means to have a childhood that supports their personality. They are not learning central competencies. And so what we do is that we do not focus on deficits. We focus on the strength of these young people. And we try to foster their self-esteem. We try to accompany them for years so that they get a feeling that they can do it. That's a very central experience, because what they learn is that they do not have the same chances as other kids on the one hand, and on the other hand, that the context they are growing up communicates those young people that they will fail like the parents, fail like their neighborhoods and they're living in. So it's very, very important to work with them on those 2 different spheres. On the one hand, on daily life skills, which communicates them also that they can achieve something. And on the other hand, on a long-term base, on how they are able to manage their own lives. And that works very well in that institutions.
Mm-hmm. Is there one success story you can tell us? One child you really remember? You remember a lot of stories, obviously, but one child that just still is in your head and in your heart also?
We finance extra budgets so that the children in the institutions can decide on themselves what they want to experience. And that's very important. So, because then they feel that they can change something and that they can decide, that they have that there's some kind of participation. That's a very important part of our work. And there was this 12-year-old boy in Meissen, which is 150 kilometers away from Berlin. And they got that budget and asked the children, so the educators asked the children, what do you want to do with that budget? And one boy stood up and said, I want to eat a döner, a kebab in Berlin.
Okay.
And then the other boy said, the next to him, he said, and we should go there by bike. Half of the kids didn't have a bike, and the other half couldn't ride a bike properly to get on such a long distance.
Okay.
So what they did, they started a workshop, a bike workshop, and refurbished old used bikes on the one hand, and the other group of kids, they trained on the bikes to ride properly. And in the end, after a month, they started their big journey. So it was a 3 or 4 days long journey to Berlin. At night, they stayed at the camping sites. And you can imagine if you grow up in a context where you get communicated that you will fail like all the others as well in that context, you do not believe in yourself. And I think for normal kids, it's quite tough to survive that challenge. But for them, it was even tougher. And they went to them mentally and physical boundaries each day. They wanted to stop that. They went on the trip with volunteers and with the pedagogues from the institution. And each day they wanted to end that, to stop. And I think it tells us a lot about also when you run a marathon. It's a similar experience, I think. And but they didn't. Day after day, they went back on that bikes. And you can imagine what happened when they stood at Alexanderplatz in Berlin and had this kebab in their hands. What that meant for them, it was a life-changing experience. And this is so important for our work, that we believe
Amazing, yeah.
in the children. And even more important, we try that they learn that they can believe in themselves.
That's beautiful.
Absolutely.
It's so beautiful, Cornelius. I can just add to this in such a emotional way. Part of the money those runners collect and donate for us for those numbers, for those BIP numbers for Berlin, for the entries, goes into what Cornelius said, into these charities. And one part of it goes in one charity, the Stadtvilla Global in Neukölln, in the very poor suburb of Berlin, in the southeast of Berlin. And we have every year a children's kids sports Olympiad, and a lot of kids come there and they run and they throw the ball and they jump and they do hula hoop and whatever. So tennis and soccer and whatever. And they collect, it's basically a round of 15 stations each time. So it's a whole afternoon each year in May or June, depending when the kids have time and when the facilities have time. And a lot of kids come together. Sometimes we have 100, sometimes 120 kids with their parents. They all come together. And I can see their spirit. They all want to give their best and have fun. And there was a girl. She and my brother came there one year, and he had this time. Let's say, equipment for 30 meters. How you would call it, dash, 30 meters dash. And this girl was just standing on there with her sandals and was just running the 30-meter dash. And she was faster than almost all the boys. And she was
faster than the boys with sandals.
Yeah, and so
Crazy.
And I looked at her and I said, "How could you do this with your sandals?" She says, "I just ran. This is so cool. It's so much fun." And she was so excited. And I said, "So what shoe size do you have?" And we looked at each other and we looked at our feet. And obviously, she had my shoe size by accident. So I gave her my shoes. And she came in second of overall. She came in second behind just one other boy. And she was so happy and elated.
Mm.
And I just wish she stays with it, I just wish, because I believe there is it's almost like a startup. If they see that it can be different, kids hold to this positivity. Kids want this positivity. Kids naturally want to explore and see and learn and make mistakes, but they want to just be themselves, right? And so she was so herself, and it was so cool to see.
I have one last question to both of you. We all know running 42K is a choice, but the challenges that many children, in this case Berlin children, face every day are not a choice. So as runners, what can we learn from the resilience these children show?
Well, I believe what your question actually integrated, or what you said, is the most important point in that discussion. It's the difference between doing something voluntarily in opposition to live up or live in a situation where you cannot change them, and where you have boundaries, you have to face them if you want or not. I think that's a completely different situation. And it's like many other challenges in life. If you, for example, what's the biggest risk you have to live in poverty in Germany is when you're alone educating. Is that the right expression for that? If you're having not a partner, and you have to look for your family, and you have to work in that combination. And I think it's a good example for that, because if you're in that situation, it is a marathon. Your life is a marathon. It is not that it's a sprint, or that you face a challenge and you succeed, and then you have the next challenge and succeed. It is a long-term thing, and it is something that is very, very tough. And I have highest respect for the children growing up in that situation, and also adults in that situation, because they face so many obstacles. And we see in our work so much optimism and so much good vibes. And that makes me thankful and very optimistic. And on the other hand, of course, and that's, I think, a very important message, with our work, we will not change the structural problem of child poverty in a wealthy country.
No.
But we can change thousands of biographies to the better. And I think that is a very important thing, because if you want to change something on the level that's more that goes more to the foundations, it's a political and societal question. But what you can do when you run the marathon in that Run for Children team, you can support hundreds of young people in Berlin. We do that all over Germany. That's why I talked about thousands. And you do your part to change their life for the better.
Yeah.
Very intense words at the end. Thank you very much, Cornelius, and obviously thank you very much, Uta, who does a great work for many years now for these children all over the world, I have to say. You're traveling so much and you're helping everywhere you can. I have to say, when I look at my watch, I have to run for children now too, because I have to run downstairs to bring them to bed.
But Florian, I mean, over years you are our ambassador, and we are so grateful, because what I said before, your intuition and your dedication, and you're feeling the kids so much, and you're a fantastic dad. So it's nice to have you on board with us, and it's fun to talk, and thanks.
See you, everybody. See you in Berlin.
Thank you so much. Really looking forward.
See you in Berlin, everyone.